Hello and welcome back to my hardcore Minecraft world, where last episode, after 1100 days in this world, we finally went to the end. Very long overdue, I know, but finally we have done it. We collected a whole bunch of shulker shells, and of course, we got ourselves an elytra. And for those of you wondering how I have elytra and chestplate on, I have this mod so that I can do this. I know many people aren't going to like that, but as far as I'm concerned, this is the way the game should be, so Mojang, take some notes. Now today is going to be a really fun day because we are finally getting back to building. It's been like 3 or 4 episodes since we've actually done a big build. Haven't actually built anything since we did the forest a few episodes ago. So today, we are going to be making the cliffs. I don't know if you guys remember, but a while ago I discussed building giant cliffs along all of these edges here. I also was mentioning that the cliffs should go all the way around here. I don't know how far we're going to take the cliffs in this direction today because I don't really have plans for that direction yet. But what I do have plans for is this direction. And we're not only going to be building all the cliffs for these lines that you see already on the ground, but we're also going to be building cliffs all the way along this coastline here. And depending on how I'm feeling, we may even go ahead and spin it all the way around this thing here today. So it's gonna be a really, really big project today. Cannot wait to get started on it. I am so excited. So we better go ahead and get to it. Alright, so I've just gone through all my chests, and thankfully, I still have a decent bit of leftover smooth basalt from back in episode 3, was it? When we did this minor cliffside along the edge of what is now our fishing village. So we can go ahead and use this to just real quickly expand our outline to just get a general feel for what we're working on today. So what we're going to do is expand this line, and we're just going to try and get the rough shape because I really want to get some rough jagged edges and some unique shapes just to make this really, really interesting to look at. And I'm not entirely sure how I'm doing that yet, but we're going to find out real quick. Also, I want to make sure that when we do this, I need this minor cliff to kind of merge in with this big cliff. So I am going to have to remove this chunk of stone, which shouldn't be a big deal, but I just thought I'd mention it. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and real quickly go ahead and lay out a shape. And would you look at that? Now we have a shape. Not the greatest shape, and I do want to add a little bit more. I got an idea for right here, actually. Hear me out. I don't know how well this is going to work, but imagine just kind of like a separate thing right here. So it's kind of like some sort of a circular, rectangular, I don't even know really how to describe it. Some sort of this like jet out here, and it will like connect up as it gets taller. I'd probably have to move it a bit farther away. But that's a rough idea for something I have. Not really important right now. What we need to talk about next is going to be the block palette. Now, I don't really want to copy this minor cliff here. I crammed 3 different blocks to make some sort of a gradient for this, and I do think it worked. Like, it does look pretty good, but this is going to be really big, and I don't think that's going to look as good. Also, I'm trying to make this cliff not so... How do I want to describe this? The shape is not going to be all that interesting, okay? It's going to be more of a relatively flat face. So I want to texturize it. All of the interesting things to look at with this cliffside is not going to be coming from like 3-dimensional little jet outs and cuts into this cliffside. It's going to be coming mainly out of the texture. There will, of course, be those 3D elements, but I'm going to try to mainly just use the texture to make this thing look interesting. And I have a reference picture from, I have no idea where in the world these cliffs are actually from, but I really, really like how they look, and so I really want to use them as my inspiration. Now, how these work is more like on the water. They have like this light sandy brown color. And I think sandstone or just sand is a bit too bright. So for me, I'm kind of envisioning a rooted dirt on the bottom. Some sort of a rooted dirt on the bottom of these cliffs. And then this will go up and fade into deep slate because it's a bit of a lighter texture. So it'll fade into this deep slate. It's a little lighter, not by much, but it is a little lighter. So it'll fade from that brown into the deep slate. Again, this is really rough texturing right now. Don't think too much of it, but it's going to fade from the brown to the deep slate, which will then fade into this basalt that will connect up to this, and you'll kind of get this idea of like layers of different sediments. So you'll have like banding across the entire cliffside, kind of like more natural cliffs. Again, I'm trying to make this more natural-like. And then mixed in there, we're going to have patches of tuff because lighter. Same with some stone for even lighter bits, specifically cobblestone because I want that rough texture. The normal stone is just too smooth. And then we'll have little sections with like moss ledges. So there will be some of those 3D elements, but like I said, not too many. So you'll have some like sections that are sticking out. Using dripstone, I'll have a few layers or like rings of this light brown. I know this looks absolutely awful, but this is, trust me, it's going to look fantastic. The only issue is we're going to have to now go get resources. And of course, I'm using rooted dirt and dripstone and tuff, none of which is easily renewable. So we're going to have to go do some digging. However, before we do the digging, I do have a few easy farms so I can just, farm up the moss and I can get the smooth basalt. So let's go do that, and then we'll have to go do some digging. And with that, we now officially have 2 shulker boxes of smooth basalt, cobblestone, and moss. So that's pretty much everything that is easily renewable. Now we just have to go do a bunch of digging because we need deep slate, we need tuff, we need dripstone, which is going to be a real big one. And then we need the the rooted dirt, which I still have yet to figure out what the easiest way to get that's going to be, so we're probably going to save that one for last. So now we probably should go ahead and start digging. This ain't going to be much fun. Alright, so we now have a whole bunch of resources, and I got the other half of them in my ender chest here. Whole bunch of stuff. Now, I will admit, I did have to change up my base plan for this a little bit, because originally I wanted to use like an absurd amount of rooted dirt, but you can't craft that. For some reason, I thought you could if you took normal dirt and roots. I have some around here somewhere. Give me a minute. See, here I got hanging roots, and if you get a piece of normal dirt, I thought, oh, you should be able to craft rooted dirt. You can't. It's not a thing. So, of course, the only way to get it then is by growing azalea trees, and you only get 1 per tree, and I was not about to do all that. So I switched out to stripped spruce wood, a little bit of coarse dirt, and some mangrove wood to make that work. As I'm sure you can see over there, I made a little bit of a sample just to give you a better idea of what this mountain is going, cliffside is going to look like, because the original example I gave you was really, really bad. So looking at this from, the new sample, you can see that we've got this more brown bottom layer. That's what we're using all of the wood and coarse dirt 4. Then we're going to fade into a darker patch with the cobbled deep slate and the smooth basalt. We're going to fade into a lighter patch with tough and cobblestone accents. Then we're going to have a little bit of a mossy ledge. We're going to try and add a little ledge here. Then we're going to continue up with a little bit more of that gray color, fading into a stripe of brown, a brown stripe that's going to run all the way around this thing. Here you can get a look at it without shaders on. After that brown striping, we're going to have another layer of gray that's going to fade into the real dark cobbled deep slate and smooth basalt. That is then going to finally end with the moss at the very tippy top, and this will then fade into the landscape that we will have to construct at this level. This right here is 2 blocks below that, so there's a bit of room to fade that down a little bit more if I wanted to, or I could just build this up another 2 blocks. Not entirely sure how we're going to do that yet. That's not really today's problem. Today's problem is just, building the actual cliffside. But yeah, that's a little sample, just a little taste of what this is going to look like. Cannot wait to see what this is going to look like fully. So what we're going to do now is we're going to expand this a little bit. That's loud. We're going to go from the sample that we built here, and we're going to fill in this section right here all the way to the land where our fishing village starts. So probably to about here. All right, so I guess we got to go ahead and get to it. Let's do it. And with that, we now have a little section of this cliffside completely finished. Looking absolutely beautiful, might I add. Now, I am very pleased with how this thing actually is looking so far. I have one complaint and one complaint alone, and that has to... I don't know why this guy is doing that. That has to do with, like, the way the moss up here connects to the actual stone of the cliff. From a distance, I think it looks incredibly unnatural, and I have yet to figure out how exactly I'm going to fix this, but this entire upper section is probably going to have to get redone. I do think it shouldn't be that bad to fix. This section looks pretty good, I think. The issue is, as I kept going, I just kind of leveled it off, and it looks so bad. I think if I made all of it look kind of like this section here, it'll probably work pretty well. Yeah, I'll start doing that as I go like further along so that I don't have to redo the entire thing. But we're just gonna leave this right now because if I don't like it, I don't want to make more work for myself is how I'm trying to, that's what I'm trying to say here, okay? I don't want to make more work for myself. So let's go ahead and real quickly now, we got to remove this section of stone here and then like merge this lower cliffside here into the base of this big cliffside. And then once we have all that figured out, we can keep going, and we'll take this all the way until the end of this section right here, all the way along here. And once we get there, we will regroup. All right, let's get back to work, shall we? And with that, a major portion of our cliffside is now completed. Flying up into the air here, you can see that this thing goes all the way to the end of this one line that we drew earlier, starting from where we originally started from. And it is looking absolutely beautiful, might I add. I hope you all are loving this project as much as me. Look at that. Just walking around down here, it's starting to really feel completed. I'm really, really happy with it. Of course, I'm gonna have to do a little bit more work right here, and the path is gonna have to start going soon. I'm not gonna start on this line until after I get the path in place, because the rate at which this path inclines is going to determine how steep this cliff is gonna be, like all the way along here. So we'll get to that a little bit later on. I want to go all the way down to the end of this line that direction first. But before we do that, I would like to go ahead and acknowledge that though I said I wasn't going to do anything about it just yet, I did go ahead and fully change all of that up there. I think it looks so much better than how it looks before. From below here, it actually looks like just a normal cliffside. You can see little bits of the grass peeking through, and when you actually go up to an elevated height, you can see all of that grass sitting on top. So yeah, I am absolutely loving this project. I am so excited to take this to the next level. Yeah, I ain't got much more to say on that. It's just looking absolutely beautiful. How's it look on the map? Oh yeah. I'm loving this project. I cannot wait to see what this looks like completed. Yeah, wow. All right, back to work we go. Back to work. People, welcome. I have done exactly what I said I was gonna do. However, I also may have done a little bit more, just a teeny weeny tiny little bit. Maybe. Okay, maybe I did just a little bit more than a teeny weeny bit. But as you can see, it paints a very pretty picture if you line up the edge of your screen with the edge of this cliff over here. So voila, it looks really, really good. I am incredibly pleased with how this cliff is turned out. Of course, this junk is still here, but thankfully you can't see it from the boat. Turning off our shaders, you can see how this all looks in just vanilla Minecraft. It still looks good. A little less good than with my shaders, but it still looks pretty good. Also, we can go ahead and see how this looks in the complementary reimagined shaders. So this is complementary reimagined. You can see how that looks. Because of the placement of the sun, it's a little bit of a mess, but it still looks, again, pretty good. Of course, I prefer it with my Solus shader. Definitely my favorite shader. But it looks beautiful. There we go. Daylight is now up. You can actually see the cliffs so much better now. They truly look fantastic, don't they? Like, I know I just keep saying it, but this is probably some of the most beautiful landscaping I've ever done, so I'm just immensely proud of it. And for that reason, you're just going to keep hearing about it. But yeah, wow. Now, I'm not entirely sure what I want to do in this little cove, essentially, that I've built up. I have a couple ideas, but I definitely need some more, especially with this little cove back here. I think I could do something really cool, but I have no idea what. So seriously, guys, ideas in the comments would be so incredibly helpful. As for this side of our cliff over here, where the path is going to be, as you can see, I have done absolutely nothing with this here yet. However, before I can do anything with that, we have to first bring our path all the way up. And I have to figure out how I want that to work and how I'm like rounding this edge here. So there's a little bit more planning that has to go into this. However, this video is supposed to go out in about 10 hours. And yeah, I don't have time to figure this out. So I'm not going to really worry about it. Not to mention the whole purpose of today's video was simply to paint the beautiful picture of these cliffs over here from the bow of that ship, which again, I think I have done absolutely wonderfully. I mean, this is just an absolutely magical view here. And when you look up over there, you can see the tree and the wheat fields. And if we just boost our render distance a teeny tiny bit, you can even see the starter house up there. So it's absolutely incredible. I mean, seriously, this entire area, once we have all kinds of buildings and stuff going on up here on the maximum render distance, this is going to be absolutely incredible. And for those of you wondering why I'm not always on the maximum render distance, because in the past I had mentioned that I was, it's because ever since I did these armor stand people, it's getting really, really laggy on the maximum render distance and simulation distance, especially over here, because there's like 300 some entities over here. Actually, counting all the different item frame things, there's probably closer to 500 in this area, so it gets pretty laggy. Even on this 24 chunk render distance, I barely get 60 frames sometimes with the shaders. Without the shaders, I can get like 80, upwards of 100 sometimes, but yeah, it's not great over here. So yeah, that answers that question that absolutely nobody has asked. Anyway, I would like to thank you all oh so very much for joining me for today's video. I am once again so incredibly happy with these cliffs. I am incredibly proud of this. If you guys have any brilliant ideas for these cliffs and this cove, please let me know, because I really want to make this place feel even more alive than it does already. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.